Keepers of the Secret by Barnaby Conrad Nico Mastorakis. There are currently 2 Goodreads reviews for this, and I'm going to start off by reading one of them to you. This was posted in 2016 by a user called Feathers. Alright, and the review is as follows. And I quote, "Read while in jail. Actual rating 2.4. So, there you go. Alright. What's up, everybody? I am back. Sorry I was gone last week. I was pretty busy with all kinds of stuff, work and life and all that. But I'm back, and I am excited to talk about this book. But before I get to it, just a couple things. I want to shout out a channel I've been enjoying lately. That is Pulp Fiction, Pulpfixion. I think there's a period at the end. I'll link his channel down below. Very knowledgeable, fun to listen to, shows off really cool, really obscure books that I've never seen before, and channel is pretty new, but should definitely have a bunch more subscribers than it does, so definitely check him out, give him a watch, give him a subscribe. I will link him down below. Also, for a personal plug, I was recently a part of the elusive exclusive book society with Book Graveyard, Secret Fire Books, and Pulp Mortem, and it was a lot of fun, and I was honored to be a part of it. And we talked about Hawk Book 12, The Virgin Stealers, some great trashy men's adventure. And so if you want to hear the 4 of us talk about it for like an hour, head on over to the Book Graveyard's channel and go watch that. It was a lot of fun. I will also leave a link to that below. Let's get into the main event. Keepers of the Secret by Barnaby Conrad Nico Mastorakis. I found this book years ago at a used bookstore somewhere. I don't remember where. Don't remember when. Saw it in the horror section, which I'll get to later. This is not a horror book. And I saw the cover and I was like, culty, satanic, something or other. You know, involving the church, because that's the Pope. And I thought, I've read some books like that before, and they're all kind of Like I remember I read The Night Church by Whitley Strieber, and I don't know, it's just, it's a something I've read a lot, and it's usually not that great, because it's just trying to cash in on the satanic panic of the 80s. So I wouldn't have picked it up, but I do know the name Nico Mastorakis. And so that was interesting enough to me that I put it in my basket and I brought it home. And I honestly hadn't thought about it much since then until I started this channel, and I knew that books I wanted to give a dedicated review to, I wanted to have 25 or fewer Goodreads ratings, just because what's the point in talking about a book if a million other people have talked about it? Well, I'll still talk about it. I'll still give it a little mini review in my monthly reading wrap-ups, but if I'm going to dedicate a whole video to it, it should be something nobody is interested in, nobody's talking about, and therefore nobody will watch my videos. Anyways, when I was going through my list of books to see which of them qualified for that, this was one of them. And so it's kind of been on a short list of books, not that short, but books that I could do reviews for. And so then I posted a poll, which I will also put up somewhere, asking you which book you guys wanted me to read and review next. And to be completely honest, I was probably least excited about this one, but it won. So to those of you who voted, congratulations, I'm finally talking about it. And to those of you who wanted John Adams' Samurai, damn it, so did I. No, I will read that one at some point. But I will say I was pleasantly surprised by this. This is really good, and I'm excited to talk about it, so thank you for picking it. Man, I have a lot to say. Before I talk about the actual book, though, let's talk about the authors. I don't usually go into the authors too much, just because I'm just here to talk about what I'm reading, and I'm not trying to do a ton of research. I I have a lot of stuff to do in my life, and I wish I had more time dedicated to this channel, but I do want to talk about the authors, and I did do a little bit of research because this is interesting. It's almost more interesting than the actual book. So this was written by Barnaby Conrad and Nico Mastorakis, which I've said 5 times already, probably. Why did I know the name Nico Mastorakis? Because you probably don't. Not to judge, but I mean, I'm guessing. Before I ever collected books, I collected VHS tapes of like obscure horror movies, science fiction, that sort of thing. Books or movies that were released on VHS and for whatever reason never made it to DVD. Movies that were made on video with friends on the weekends, and there's only X amount of copies of these VHS tapes out there, and I was really into it. I probably had thousands of VHS tapes. I've since sold off my collection years ago. And now a lot of them are really expensive, go figure, but it was just something I enjoyed. You go to a flea market or a thrift store and pick up a cheap movie. Anyways, Nico Mastorakis is a director of low-budget movies that were the kinds of things that I would find. He did movies such as Darkroom, which I had on VHS and watched. What else? Zero Boys, which I had and watched. He also did one called Grandma's House. I don't know if he directed it or produced it, but and he was infamous, which I have never seen, but for the movie Island of Death, which is a Greek film and is one of the most banned films of all times. It was on the UK's Video Nasty list. So I was just familiar with the name and I knew him as a low-budget film director. And so I was like, why is this guy writing a book? I'm fascinated. So I picked it up for that reason alone. Nico Mastorakis is even more interesting than I had realized. He was born in Greece in 1941. He was a reporter. There was this one incident I read about where he posed as a musician and snuck onto a yacht that was that had Jackie Onassis and Ted Kennedy on it. He hid the camera behind the guitar strings and was filming all this stuff. He wound up being caught, and he fled with his video negatives and managed to get on a plane, get off the boat, get on a plane, fly away, and then they caught him when he landed. But despite all that, he broke the news of the marriage between Ted Kennedy and Jackie Onassis months before the official announcement date. So that's interesting. He hosted radio shows in Greece and influenced Greek pop music and television. Apparently he's like a really big figure in that. He was friends with John Lennon. And then he very notably interviewed a bunch of students who wound up being tortured by the junta. Sorry, my knowledge of Greek history is very lacking, but they ended up being tortured because of this interview. And I guess it's like a pretty well-known event over there. And because of that, when the junta took over government or whatever, he couldn't get continue working as a reporter in Greece, so he wound up making B-movies, American B-movies. So really just larger-than-life individual who seemed to know a lot of people and really like a lot of very important, powerful people, which I think is how he came to know Barnaby Conrad at some point. Now, Barnaby Conrad, another very larger-than-life, fascinating individual. He was a bullfighter, went to the University of Chapel Hill for a while, went to Yale, went to study abroad in some Mexican university where he learned bullfighting. And then he became the American Vice Consul of Malaga, Spain, where he did more bullfighting in Spain. And then he lived in Peru for a few years where he did more bullfighting in Peru. And apparently he's still the only American-born person to do major bullfighting events in all those countries. He wrote a book in 1952 called Matador, and John Steinbeck named Matador as his favorite book of the year, of that year. He then opened a nightclub in, I think, San Francisco called El Matador. In 1958, while bullfighting, he was gored almost fatally by a bull. And then Ava Gabor infamously said, "Oh, thank heavens, I thought you said he was bored," when discussing Barnaby Conrad getting gored. Amazing. He did charcoal portraits of Capote and other famous people that are currently in the National Portrait Gallery. Yeah, so these two people, when I was reading about their life, I was just like pretty amazed and shocked that there's so much history behind them, and they happened to write this weird little book. They actually wrote two books together. One is this one. The other one is a book called Fire Below Zero, which I really, really want. I'll put an image up there. The cover says, "Sterling Man, super spy of the 80s, America's answer to James Bond comes of age." And then it's got some incredible art. And I actually looked on Amazon. This is probably more information than anyone cares about. But the posting on Amazon has a picture of like a hand-drawn and colored card that says, "Best wishes, Barnaby Conrad, July 2001. And it's of like a little matador. I'll put a picture up. And I was like, there's no way for $13 they're going to give me that book and a hand-drawn, one-of-a-kind card. So I actually messaged the Amazon sellers, and they are like, "Oh, we're getting a lot of inquiries lately. We don't have time to tell you that. We'll tell you at some point." It's been like a week. They haven't told me. And I'm really trying, because I'm moving, bought a house and all this, and I'm trying not to spend money or buy books. But if anyone wants that, they should buy it and let me know if you get that, because I'm okay missing out. I need that book at some point, though. I'm going to have to buy it. Anyways, wow, it's been 12 minutes and I haven't even started talking about the book. Let's get into it. Keepers of the Secret is about this reporter named Jason Van Cleve, who is traveling in Istanbul with this woman that he doesn't really know. He's known her a very short amount of time. His wife died a while back. And while he's like gotten off this cruise ship and is exploring Istanbul, exploring some ruins or something, or no, he's in Izmir, Turkey, exploring some ruins, and he's approached by this guy that's basically like, "Hey, I'm the American vice consul, and there's somebody who really wants to meet you to tell you a story." And he's like, "Oh, okay, like I've heard that before." But he's got some free time, so he's like, "Sure, I'll hear it." And this old man winds up telling him a story about these things called the E.E.B.S scrolls. My cat's scratching on the door. The E.E.B.S scrolls, which purport to tell a story of essentially that Jesus is not the Messiah, that Jesus was the adopted brother in the family of the Messiah, and that the Messiah is this woman, this girl named Lael, Lael. And as you're reading this, there's a lot of real history, real biblical stories and facts mixed in with, the story. I am not an expert on this subject, and I think it would probably be more fascinating for someone who is well versed on this to read it. But I mean, it was well done. I wasn't sure what was like based in fact and what wasn't. Very well done. The writing is good enough. I had no problems with it. Nothing crazy. Basically, and it says it on the back, so I'm not gonna spoil anything by saying it, but he wants to hear more of this old man's story, and when he goes to track him down, like the next day, this old man had handcuffed his wrist to a briefcase that had photos of these scrolls, because he didn't have the physical scrolls. He just had photos and a translation. And these people lop off this old man's hand and kill him. And so Jason Van Cleve, this reporter, is so fascinated. He's like, there must be something true to this. And so with the help of this other woman that he encounters. He winds up traveling through Greece and Turkey, trying to come to the truth about these scrolls and who is trying to cover them up, who's trying to keep them hidden from the public. You come to learn that it is this group called the Guardians, who have for centuries used whatever means necessary, including murder and kidnapping, to tamp down this secret, this religious secret that they believe would negatively affect the church and the world. And it's might be tied to the Vatican. It's very visual, adventurous story. There's some great action, some violence, some fist-fighting cardinals from the Vatican. There's the final climax of the story takes place on this peninsula in Greece near Thessaloniki that is a real place called Mount Athos that no woman is allowed to set foot on. And it's just this like very desolate, rocky peninsula with these beautiful monk abbeys on the sides of these cliffs, which I had to look up pictures of. It's real and very cool. Very fun setting for the end of like an exciting climax to the book. I really like this. The reviews on Goodreads, like I was making fun of the one who literally just said she read it in prison, which is like, okay. And when I was like, this is the kind of book you would find in a prison library, right? I don't even know what that means, but it is. I just thought that was funny. But as a whole, it doesn't have great reviews, and I think that is not fair because I really, really enjoyed this, and maybe that's just because I had such low expectations, but I think it's great. I think you should check it out. I think I've been talking for too long. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5, and yeah, Keepers of the Secret is a good one. It's not horror. You should read it. Alright guys, sayonara. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you read this, if you want to read this, if you want to tell me about your day. I don't know. Alright, bye.